The United States has once again warned that it may stop rendering military assistance to Nigeria if the country fails to protect human rights. The U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken, who gave the warning, also urged the federal and Lagos state government to sanction any individual found to have violated human rights during the October 2020 EndSARS protest, when the white paper of the Lagos State Judicial Panel of Inquiry on restitution for victims of SARS-related abuses and other matters is ready. He warned that if the rights violation persisted, the US government might evoke the Leahy Law to deny Nigeria access to hardware, which includes arms and other military equipment to fight terrorism and other forms of criminalities. An 8-man panel led by retired Justice Doris Okwobi had submitted a 309-page report to the Lagos State Governor, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, on Monday, indicting soldiers and police for killing peaceful protesters at Lekki Toll Gate on October 20th, 2020. Describing the Lekki Toll Gate incident as a massacre, the panel report stated that at least 9 persons were killed by security agents at the scene and listed 48 names as casualties, including 22 protesters who sustained gunshot injuries and 15 others allegedly assaulted by soldiers and police. During a meeting with the president, Major General Muhammadu Buhari retired, on Thursday in Aso Rock, Abuja, Blinken had said America anticipated the response of the federal and Lagos state governors to the panel's findings. On Friday, Blinken met with members of the civil society in Abuja, reiterating the U.S. demand for justice. In an interview with CNN, the transcript of which was made available to Sunday Punch by the U.S. Department of State, Blinken urged Nigeria to bring those indicted by the panel report to book. He said the U.S. might evoke the Lee Law on military aid against Nigeria if the country failed to protect human rights. The Lee Law is an American rights ordinance that prohibits the U.S. government from providing military assistance to foreign security force units that violate human rights with impunity. Asked during the CNN interview whether the U.S. had changed its conclusion in the light of the panel's report, Blinken said he was waiting for the full report to be released by the Lagos state government. He, however, argued that the most important thing was ensuring that those found wanting faced the full weight of the law. He said, but a couple of things are really important. As I said, the report itself, done by the state government, but then once it's out, for there to actually be action on the basis of the report, action as necessary by the states, action by the federal government, and action in the sense of 2 things. First, making sure that based on what is documented to have happened, it won't happen again. So there may be reforms that are necessary, and building on rebuilding trust between the citizens and the security services, between citizens and the state. This is an obligation of both the state government and the federal government. Second is accountability. If there are individuals that, as it emerges from this report, who are responsible for committing abuses, there has to be accountability in terms of those individuals. This too is vital to rebuilding trust between citizens and the state and the security services. On what the US would do if human rights abuses continued, he responded, and of course, we also have laws in place. The Lee Law, for example, that makes sure that if there are units that have committed abuses, we are not going to provide equipment to those units. When asked pointedly if the Lee Law would be imposed on Nigeria, the Secretary of State responded, well, we'll look in any instance if there are credible allegations that prove that we believe we meet the standard of the law, yes, of course, we'll apply the law. A petition by rights group including Amnesty International had recently forced the US Congress to call for the stoppage of weapons sales to Nigeria. When asked by CNN if the US government would bow to pressure by the US Congress to impose an arms embargo on Nigeria amid incessant allegations of human rights abuse, Blinken said it would all depend on Nigerians' response. Blinken stated, If there's a genuine transparency, accountability, and change that follows from these incidents and from these abuses, I think that's very important, not only to our administration, it's important to Congress in making judgments about continuing to provide assistance to the security forces. He explained that the assistance being given to Nigerian military was not only hardware but training to tackle terrorism and criminal activities. Blinken said, but the assistance itself is not just the hardware that we might provide, airplanes or helicopters. It's the software, the human software, because one of the things that we are doing is making sure that we are providing equipment to deal with profound security challenges that are faced here in Nigeria: terrorism, criminal activities, other violence. That those who will be using the equipment are trained in a way that makes sure that they are doing it to avoid hurting the good guys, even as they are going after the bad guys, to make sure that the laws of the armed conflict are fully in mind, and that if they make mistake, they are corrected and they are brought to light immediately. All of that's very important. And of course, we also have laws in place, the Lee laws, for example, that makes sure that if there are units that have committed abuses, we're not going to provide equipment to those units. Meanwhile, the judicial panel in its report faulted the state government for inviting the army to disperse peaceful #EndSARS protesters at the Lekki toll gate on October 20, 2020. The panel noted that the violence recorded in some parts of the state did not happen at the Lekki toll gate, noting that there was no need for any apprehension on the part of the government to deploy soldiers bearing lethal weapons to dispel peaceful protesters at the toll gate. The report also stated that the panel finds that although the army gave copious evidence of the general commotion, violence and mayhem in other locations in Lagos State other than Lekki toll gate, there is no justification behind the deployment of its soldiers and officers to Lekki toll gate in particular, when there was no violence reported there instead of the other critical areas, for example, in places like Orile, Mushin, and so on, which indeed escalated the violence. The deployment of the army to Lekki toll gate on the 20th of October 2020, in the absence of any reported violence, was totally unwarranted. The United States, they've just reiterated what is going to happen if those that have been indicted are not brought to book. If they don't face the full consequences, then military assistance, military aid to Nigeria, they would have to stop it. President Muhammadu Buhari's actions, all of this is President Muhammadu Buhari's actions. Let's forget that it happened in Lagos State. It's coming from the top. President Muhammadu Buhari is behind all of this. Well, guys, leave us your take. Thank you once again for staying tuned. And please don't forget to like, share, and to subscribe till I come your way again with more updates. Bye.